So I just wanted to take this time. I know this is the first time I'm doing this. There's a lot of nicks and quirks that I'm working on. If you're watching this later, which you probably are, because most likely this is the first time I'm doing this and you have no idea what this one is about. But here's my idea. I want to start this series. I'm thinking weekly, but let me know. I could do it daily. I could do it every other day, whatever makes you guys feel more comfortable. But I want to start this series that I will have the live video and I will have my chat box. I will also would like to provide a phone number if this is something that you guys like that like to call in. And here's the thing. You guys can join in and ask question. You guys can join in and call and talk about an issue that you want to discuss. I know mental health is important and sometimes it's about it's about those little attention that we give to it. So this is my plan. My plan is that starting next week, and I'm gonna try to share this video as much as I can so everybody can hear about it and you guys can join in. Figure out a time that works best. Probably I'm gonna keep it around the same time and we can talk about this. We have one person who joined, Andrew, who is telling us, "Hello, could I talk to you about?" Uh, of course, you could talk about anything. I this is your guys' session again. My goal is to give you guys the best that I can give, and I had no idea that he died. That is um, heartbreaking. Of course, we could talk about it. What would you like to talk about it? Grief is something important, something that we really don't give it that much attention, but it's something that if we don't give it that much attention, it can build itself up. And it doesn't have to be about a close person, someone that we're close to. It could be someone that we haven't even met that we could have grief about. So, of course, if you want to talk about him, you're more than welcome. Tell me, what would you like to talk about? But uh, while Andrew is writing his questions or what he likes to talk about, let me know, guys, how you guys want this to be. How do you guys want this to go? How would you guys prefer this communication to happen? Do you guys think that live chat is good enough, or do you think I should add a line and tell you guys a number to call and then we can talk about it? Andrew, if that's okay with you, you could write down your number and I could call you and we can talk about it as we're having this session. So if you guys want me to provide you guys a number, let me know. I'll provide the number. If you guys prefer to give me your number and I'll give you guys a call, we could do this. Whatever helps you guys better connect with me and ask any question. Again, my name is Hassan. I'm a mental health therapist. I'm a PhD candidate and I am here for you guys. So I'm going to hang out a little bit more. Again, in the final video, I'm going to cut all of this down and just keep the main part up. But let me know. This is your session. This is your time. You are here to talk about anything and anything that you want to talk about. It could be relationship, it could be sex, it could be life, it could be whatever it is that you want to talk about. I am here for you. I'm here to give you guys the support that you need. And Andrew wrote a comment. Well, ever since I was a kid, Paul was one of the greatest part of my childhood. I could definitely understand. I didn't know if he did conventions, but I wanted to meet him and thank him for the laugh he provided. It's so it's so understanding. A lot of time that's what's called nostalgic. A lot of time we have connection to things around us and sometimes we don't really give it the attention that it deserves. But the problem is that a lot of time we end up punishing ourselves for the things that we haven't done. A lot of time we feel when something is gone, we feel that it's our fault that we didn't spend the proper time with it as much as we wanted. Well, the thing is that, Andrew, it's completely understandable for you to feel overwhelmed, for you to have this feeling inside. Sometimes we just feel overwhelmed. But the thing is that what matters the most is how you feel, giving yourself the credit that you deserve. That's sometimes something that we just forget about. PV Playhouse was one of my most favorite shows of all time, of course. I remember when I watched it, I used to watch it back. As a matter of fact, I actually recently watched it. I think it was on Netflix that I watched it. And it was just wonderful. It was just the most amazing thing that can help you connect to yourself. It could help you be a child, forget. And a lot of time when we're dealing with grief, the reason that we're dealing with it is because we're neglecting some part of our emotions. Let me give you, Andrew, a really good example. Imagine, Andrew, that you were a gardener. Everything that you did, everything that you worked for, everything that you wanted, everything that you loved was you taking care of your garden. Now, one of these days, as you're taking care of your garden, you find a little tiny seed and you ask yourself, you pick it up, you ask yourself, what do I do with this tiny seed? And then you have two options. You could either bury it on the ground or you could get up, go to the trash, and discard it. But I mean, getting up, going to the trash, discarding, it takes a lot of time. Who has time for it? So you decide that the best thing that I can do at this time is to just bury it. And you bury that seed. But what happens after you bury it? What happens, Andrew? Well, it kind of roots itself out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe next month. You get up in the morning, you go to take care of your garden, and all of a sudden, you just see a huge pile of weeds all over the place. Not the one that people smoke. This is the weed that just destroys everything. And you ask yourself, what happens? What happened? How did this get to this point? Now, there's a good news, there's a bad news. The good news is that you could still take care of it. You could fertilize it, change the soil. The bad news is that it takes much longer. This is just like our emotion. Our emotion is chaotic. It's like that garden. Takes a long time to build, but though it's a very delicate and it's very beautiful. And that seed resonates some emotion that we try to hide. Now, sometimes we hide those emotions and it's okay. But the thing is, at the moment we hide them, they don't really go away. They always existed right there, you know? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're doing your thing and it just hits you, you know? And you wonder what happened? How did it get to this point? So sometimes when you have a strong feeling about someone, something, especially if it's related to grief, if it's related to someone's passing, something that can help you is closure, giving yourself the closure that you want. One thing that I would recommend, Andrew, and before I'm reading your next comment, I would recommend for you to write him a letter. Sit down, thank him. Thank Pee Wee for everything that he did, for the laughter that he brought, for the joy that he brought to your childhood. Let him know that how much you wish to see him, how much you wished that you could spend the time with him. Recognize his emotion, recognize your emotion, give him the time and attention to talk to him, and be thankful for everything that he has done. And once you write that letter, that's the reflection that you have done. Set the letter free. Maybe go to your favorite park or a place that you find joy and let the letter go. Maybe to the wind or to the lake or to the ocean, or maybe burn it. Let the universe have it. Express yourself. I never felt the same way after hearing how Jason David Frank died in November last year. The last thing I said to him on Twitter before he passed was to get help. When he passed, I felt awful. I felt as though I should have been kinder to him. I felt as though I had a hand in his suicide until my psychiatrist and family helped me through the guilt. Here's the thing that you have to understand, Andrew. And this is sometimes is hard for us to recognize, but here's the thing that I will tell you. Guilt is something that exists. It's not good, it's not bad, it's something that exists. It's one of the emotions that we have. But the thing is that sometimes those guilt they take over us. Sometimes those guilt becomes so much that we forget about ourselves. The goal is to have a balance and reminding yourself that the only thing that you're responsible is for you. And sometimes this sounds selfish, but here's the thing that I want to let you know before let me my watch someone called. I'm sorry. Here's the thing that I want to let you know. Sometimes, and this happens every day, sometimes we punish ourselves too much for the things that we don't have any control over. One thing that you need to remind yourself is that you and your universe are the center. And sometimes we forget about the center that we have and we put ourselves in different location and we expect ourselves to operate in those locations. Think about it this way. Imagine a phone, a simple phone. Okay? This is a simple phone. Our job is to be the camera, for example. What happens if we put the camera in the charger? What happens if we put the camera in the screen? It won't function. Not only it won't function as it was supposed to, but it will break every other part. So sometimes you have to remind yourself that it's you about you being in the place that you are. You know, and about being selfish, let me tell you this. Imagine you're going swimming. Beautiful thing. But you went that day with only your swimsuit on, right? And your towel. You're walking back to your house and you see a homeless person on the side of the road. And you ask yourself, what can I give him? You look at yourself, you say, well, I have just my swimsuit and my towel. I have nothing to give to that person. So then when he doesn't want to talk to you, he wants money, he wants food. So you can't give him anything. And then there's another day, a week later, you're going back there to the same road and you find the same person. But this time you're planning to go camping. You're not swimming anymore. Now what can you give him? Now you can give him anything. You could give him your money, you could give him food, you could give him shelter. So the goal that I want to say is that sometimes we have to provide ourselves with the tools that we need in order to be able to provide other with the tools that they need. And sometimes along this line, we kind of don't give ourselves the things that we need and we start giving and giving and giving and we give ourselves expectation that at this point I have to give this, I have to give this. Next thing you know, you're giving pieces of yourself. And then we feel guilt, we feel shame, we feel overwhelmed. And we ask ourselves, why do we feel the way that we do? Sometimes it's important to give yourself credit. Every act counts. And the thing is that you have to remind yourself of that. Because at the end of the day, what matters the most is you. What matters the most is you giving yourself the time and attention that you deserve. That's the most important thing. So don't forget that. The biggest reason I felt guilty about his passing was because I felt as though I was too hard on him, through his hard time. It's understandable. The thing is that here's the thing that you have to remember. We're humans. We have emotion, and sometimes those emotion we don't have control over it. Emotion goes up and down. We can't punish ourselves for having emotion. You could only embrace your emotion. Now, if your emotion causes something that you're not maybe happy about, that's a time for you to reflect and remind yourself of what would you change? What step would you take? Think about it this way: when a child, and I'm going to get to the next comments as well. When a child has born for the first time, okay, does he or she know how to walk and run? I'm sure that I saw a cartoon when a child was born and he started running in a circle in the room, operating room. But no, in reality, a child cannot even hold his head. He can't even move his muscles. But the thing is that over time, they get control over their limbs. They start crawling, and one of these days, they stand. After a couple of weeks, couple of months, they stand up for the first time. But what happens next? Do they start walking and running and jumping? No. They fall and they fall and they fall because they make mistake, they make mistake, they make mistake. And finally, through those mistakes, they learn ways that they can cope with their mistakes. They learn ways that they can better themselves. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to understand our mistakes and do one thing one step at a time. Here's my question. What consists of mental health exam? Well, it depends. What type of mental health exam? Uh, it depends on the client, depends on the situation, it depends on the therapy session, it depends on different circumstances. Hi, all. I just saw your live. Can I ask you about my two teens, 19 and 17? They are my grandchild, my son in prison, and their mom on the street. They are both 17-year depressed. I'm trying to get the 17-year-old to go to counseling. The 19-year-old just went to a therapist who put her on meds. In all of this, I'm 66 and feel like a failure daily. SSDI for the 13-year-old. Any ideas on how to push the 17-year-old to go therapy? First of all, I'm very sorry that you feel this way about yourself. But do you know what? I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I got goosebumps when reading this because you're so amazing. You are so amazing that you just don't see it. You're so amazing because you're doing all of this. Because you recognize something is not right and you're taking step. And that makes you such a wonderful person. And I wish there were more people like you. First of all, I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing. Recognizing when something is out of balance is a huge, huge thing. And sometimes we don't recognize that. Sometimes we don't see that. Reminding yourself of how much you matter is the most important thing because above all, that's the only thing that can help you take you to the next step, take you one step further. And I'm so proud of you for doing everything that you're doing. I'm so glad that and this is the first time that I'm doing this. But here's the thing that I want to emphasize on. That's the first thing that you need to recognize of how amazing you are. Because if you don't have the energy and the support, not externally, because I'm a tool, everything around you is a tool, nothing exists. Everything it's simply there. You know, the thing that you have to remind yourself is how amazing and incredible you are. Because once you give yourself the time, the attention, and the support that you need, you can achieve anything. Then you have the energy, you have the support, you have the power to take that next step. And the very moment that the idea comes to your mind, you're taking those steps. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to taking someone to therapy, now when we're talking about minor, it's a different scenario, it's a different situation. But if there is resistance, it becomes a little challenging. So one thing that I would suggest, to talk to your therapist, find a good therapist that you want him to go. And once you find a therapist, ask your therapist, what is it that I can do to maybe engage with him and bring him to therapy? One thing is to first understand what is it that he likes and get onto his level. Communicate with him. Share with him your thoughts, your feeling, your emotions. What is it that you're going through? What is it that you feel? How is it that this impacts you? You'll be surprised what communication can do. A lot of time we neglect this, but communication is the most important thing that allows us to connect with one another in such a deep level that we sometimes don't even recognize it. And it doesn't matter what the age gap is. The thing that is important is to understand those fine thread of line. For example, maybe I like music. Okay, then we delve the conversation through music. And one thing that I would recommend is to sandwich whatever you want to talk about. Now, let me explain this to you. Sandwich in a conversation is a really powerful thing. Think about it. We got burger, right? That's a sandwich, right? The buns are the good part. They're the bread. Who doesn't like bread? Every one of us loves bread, you know. But the meat in the middle is where the cholesterol is. It's where the fat is. It's where the unhealthy stuff is. So here's the thing: we have the buns and we have the meat. A good, a bad, and a good. So when I want to talk, this is exactly how I talk. So for example, I would say, "Hey, I love like." Again, I like music, so I'm talking about music. Hey, I love this music. Have you heard about this? Interesting. But did you know that there was something wrong with that music? But still, the person who sang that music, the person who did the solo on that music was so great. So I said something good, I brought up the issue, and I ended up with something good. Now, again, this is something that it needs a little bit of time for you to think about it. So I would suggest to sit down, kind of go through this to your head and ask yourself, okay, what is it that he likes? What is it that I can bring? How is it that I can formulate this concept? And once you brought up those things and once you were able to kind of formulate what is it that you want to share or what is it that you want to talk about, then bring it up. Communicate your feeling. And along the way, remind yourself of how amazing you are, of how much care, love, and passion you have within you. That's something that we don't see. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. It's kind of it's amazing that people are still out there who care and who want to. You will come, and I truly mean that. People are out there who care, and that's something incredible. That's something that you cannot buy or you cannot sell. So give yourself that motivation. Remind yourself that you're doing everything. You're doing anything and everything that you can. You're here right now in this video. So beyond everything, your mind still is with him, giving them the support that they need because of their situation, because of their circumstances. And that means so much. So get onto his level, communicate, express, find a therapist, and maybe ask them, here's what they like. Here's what I have tried. What is it that we can do to maybe strengthen this relationship? Again, when it comes to teens, it's sometimes about give and take. So sometimes we have to recognize that and ask ourselves, okay, what is it that I need to give? What is it that I need to get? And then maybe setting a little bit of boundaries. Boundaries are also important, something that we forget about. We have to create those boundaries also sometimes. Sometimes boundaries, we want it to be there, but they're not. And maybe they were in place at the beginning. So boundaries doesn't exist. So think about it this way. You have this little pen, this little keycaps, and you want to keep it safe. It never had a case, it never had anything. The first thing that you do is to recognize that this needs a case. This needs protection. This needs to be kept in a place so it remains the way it is. That's the first step. The second step, okay, here's the shape of it. Now, I can't simply just grab any box and toss this inside of it. I have to grab a box that fits this keycaps. And if the box is too big, I have to find a way to keep this protected inside, maybe with insulation, maybe with padding. And once you found the right box or the right sleeve like this, you simply place it in here. 3-step. First step, recognize. Second step, find what fits. And third step, implement. It sounds easier said than done, but the thing is that all of these steps require time and attention. Once you give it the time and attention that it needs, you kind of come up with it yourself. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope that this was something that was helpful. Again, I'm gonna try to do this, but later on in the video, write it down. Do you guys prefer calling or maybe using the chat? But this is something that I want to keep doing. This is something that I want to continue. Again, this is something for you guys. It's not a therapy session. Let me make that clear. This is just a therapist's advice. And I'm just simply here to give you guys advice. If it's an emergency, if it's something that requires immediate help, make sure to seek out for help. You can always call 911. There's suicide prevention hotline, and there is always crisis line that are available for you guys if you are in an emergency. There's always an emergency room that you can visit. Know that support is out there. And on top of that, your mental health matters. Give it the time and give it the attention that it deserves. Because here's the thing, you're important and you are the most important thing. Giving yourself the time and attention that you deserve, it's all that matters. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Wishing you guys all the best. It's been 27 minutes since I started this, and we had such lovely communication. I love you guys. Thank you guys for everything. You guys matter, and proud of you for taking this step. And I thank you for joining me. Have a good day.